We're going to be starting off with Hezbollah. Top Hezbollah commander Ibrahim Aqil killed in Israeli airstrike in Beirut. We're gonna start off with Lebanon once again. Israel's been pummeling Lebanon pretty hard. After 2 days, or I guess like 3 days ago, they started doing like mass terror, and now they're also on top of that striking Beirut directly, and it seems like World War III is imminent. But I'm out here in San Diego, and we're gonna do debate lords no matter what. So let's get fucking started. I gotta pee as well.
The latest Israeli airstrikes on the Lebanese capital Beirut. That's according to security sources who've been speaking to the Reuters news agency. The Lebanese Health Ministry reports at least 8 people have been killed and 59 injured. Well, the strikes come days after a wave of attacks on pagers and walkie-talkies that left 37 people dead in Lebanon. Now, it's reported by sources in Israel the intended victim of those airstrikes was the Hezbollah Operations Commander. It isn't immediately clear if he was killed in the strikes that hit a southern suburb of the capital, Beirut. Well, let's bring in our international correspondent, John Sparks, for more on this. So, John, what more do we know about the target of these airstrikes?
Yeah, hi, Kamali. Well, it's been reported by the news agency Reuters, quoting 2 security sources, that a top Hezbollah commander called Ibrahim Aqil has been killed by the Israelis. He has been wanted by both the Israelis and the Americans. The Americans said that he was involved in the 1983 US Embassy bombing. There was a large bounty on his head. If he has been killed, it is another significant security breach for Hezbollah. The organization, it seems, completely unable to protect both its members, and in this case, if it turns out to be true, if it's confirmed, unable to protect their senior commanders as well. Let me tell you what else we know. It was a residential building that was hit in a suburb of Beirut called Dahia. In the southern suburbs. It's controlled by Hezbollah. Significant number of supporters.
Classic. That's are you gonna admit that San Diego is goated and LA is doo-doo? This is probably the worst time to ask me this question because like the weather is kind of shit too. This little girl is martyred in the process, of course. This ray of sunshine is missing after the cowardly attack by the genocidal entity on a Beirut residential building, which lies in a notoriously busy area surrounded by parks and schools. May they never see a day of peace for the terrorism they have plagued us with our whole lives. I don't know if this is, we'll see. Once the dust is settled, and I don't mean that as a pun, but we'll see. So they just blew up a residential building to get one guy illegally? Yes. The answer to your question is yes. Okay? The answer to your question is yes, that's precisely what they're doing. They don't give a shit. You know, this is how it is. This is just Israel plays by its own rules that America refuses to apply any rules whatsoever. So if they're completely unrestrained, why the fuck wouldn't they do this? You know what I mean? And killing like some fucking bombing suspect from 1983 means that, you know, they're desperate for any kind of W's the media will give them. And I think this is like, they got a little taste of the phone explosions, like the phone and or pager bombs and the walkie-talkie bombs. And I think that they're just trying to desperately cultivate any amount of support that they possibly can. And I think that that is what's going on. Like this is like a exit ramp, not an exit ramp necessarily, but like this works as a way for them to just basically say, hey, we're here, like we're still doing good work, look at us. It also shows that they are not confident in the pager bombs. Like they're not confident in the bombing campaign that they put together, like the terror attack that they did for the last 3 days. Basically, they're not confident enough in that. Has the administration said that this was just and valid, or are they ignoring it? No, they'll say it's just and valid. This right here is seen as a more just attack than even the fucking pagers. Okay? Ultimately, it doesn't even fucking make any sense. Like, you're just blowing up like an 80-year-old dude in a crowded residential building. And, the question I always ask is, like, since a lot of people only see, Israelis as full humans and anyone who's like Lebanese is simply collateral damage for the crime of being born in Lebanon and living near someone who is a Hezbollah militant general, or even like a Hezbollah parliament member, which is a civilian. I suspect that I need to play the same thing over and over again, which is like, how would you feel if they blew up a building in a Tel Aviv suburb where there were Israeli children near parks where Israeli kids play, right? If they did a targeted assassination like this and took out like an old, Israeli occupying force commander or some shit, would you feel like this was a just act? I'm sure plenty of people at this point would say no, like they're playing by their rules. Israel set the standard, so now they're fucking retaliating. But all of the people that are defending Israel's actions would immediately say, nah, that's not allowed. That's like completely fucked up. You know?
In that suburb support Hezbollah. The building was leveled, was destroyed. The Lebanese health ministry saying 8 people killed, 59 people injured. And there are pictures now emerging from the scene of chaos, of dust, of rubble, of destroyed cars, of ambulances trying to get into the site. And it is very densely populated, this area. I think you could probably picture the scene. I can tell you over the last 24 hours, the Israelis have conducted more than 100 airstrikes, more than 100. In southern Lebanon and one in Beirut. This is the first time they have hit Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, since the end of July, when they assassinated another senior Hezbollah commander called Fuad Shakur. And in this conflict that both sides have been waging since last October, there is an unwritten rule that both sides try to avoid large population centers. That seems to be...
I mean, when has Israel abided by that standard? They've fucking struck Beirut multiple times at this point since October 7. The notion that they try to avoid and make their very best effort to not fucking strike crowded population centers is an abject lie. Okay? Also, that's not an unwritten rule. That is just like the rule of war, for the record. At least like post World War II, that is a rule of war. So the idea that they are trying to abide by that standard and just like failing to do so every now and then is pretty funny. We're not even talking about Gaza at this point. Obviously, this is a laughable notion when considering Gaza, which is doubly fucked up because Israel is a belligerent occupier of Gaza and all of the people that live in Gaza, and yet they're still ruthlessly and mercilessly striking Gaza. But Lebanon is a sovereign state that is outside of Israel's control. So that's the reason why there could be separate rules applied in this circumstance, but there are not, which is not very shocking, I would say, given that who's going to hold Israel accountable? Absolutely no one.
Falling apart. Hezbollah have been approached. They have been asked if this commander, Ibrahim Aqil, has been killed, assassinated. They haven't confirmed it, but they have said that they are searching the site.
So, look, John, give us a sense, you're in Beirut, of how this is affecting sort of the wider public and how Lebanese society is responding. Of course, Hezbollah is not all of the Lebanese government. Is there any expectation that there could be a response or words said from the rest of the Lebanese political class?
Well, the ethnic and religious makeup in this country is both complicated and diverse. Hezbollah are the largest non-governmental actor in this country, the most powerful politically and militarily, arguably, but they are not Lebanon. Lebanon is highly diverse. Christian, Druze, Sunni Muslims, as well as Shia. Hezbollah makes up most of its support from Shia Muslims. So it's a complicated picture, and certainly there will be people who won't like what Hezbollah is doing.
Yeah, except what Israel is doing straight up gives righteous cause to Hezbollah in the eyes of the Lebanese population. But of course, you can't say that, especially after fucking they exploded pagers all around Lebanon. But you can't fucking say that because then it kind of, you know, changes the dynamic a little bit. You always have to keep up manufacturing consent and make it seem as though, and this is, they did this with Ansar Allah too. Oh, the Houthis are in the midst of a civil war. And then what happened? And then what happened? They took up arms against Israel. They started infiltrating and intercepting and shutting down the entirety of the Red Sea and closed down the strait, basically, effectively rendering the Israeli port bankrupt, right? And what happened in that process? All aspects of Yemeni society united behind the Ansar Allah movement because they were like, you're doing the right thing. And the same goes for, I suspect, Lebanon as well, because many Lebanese people still remember. Many Lebanese people still remember what it was like when Israel fucking invaded Lebanon. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're Christian or it doesn't matter what your background is. She's right behind you. What? Hasan, a girl behind you? She's right behind you? What the fuck are you saying? You all right, dude? Is it a TikTok trend? Oh. Yeah, ultimately, this absolutely fucking emboldens and unites. Oh, it's that fucking TikTok I saw. The mama, there's a girl behind you, and it's like a creepy ass girl standing by the fucking by the seaside. I've seen that TikTok. That shit is creepy as fuck, dude. I've seen that TikTok. I work at a bank, and even my MAGA Republican boss realizes the immorality of Israel's pager attack in Lebanon. That's actually genuinely surprising, especially considering that, like, I think most libs are more primed to defend that shit. At this stage, I feel like liberals just eat whatever the fuck the media is saying, and like whatever the New York Times is saying, they're just like so primed. They're so primed to personally reiterate those positions that it's just like impossible to get them to comprehend that this is like unconscionable. This is definitely illegal and an act of terror.
This war against Israel, these border clashes, which for the most part have been tit-for-tat strikes since last October the 8th. But it does seem to be...
Yeah, well, by the way, speaking on the tit-for-tat strikes, here it is. Israel-Hezbollah conflict, over 7,400 cross-border attacks since October 2023. People need to see this. Israel has perpetrated over 80% of the cross-border attacks with Lebanon during the past year. Hezbollah has shown remarkable restraint. Source BBC, and who is their source? Hezbollah's Ministry of Peace. I love that these people are just like, yeah, the BBC is a pro-Hezbollah outlet. Do you know any prominent Western media that's completely anti-Israel? No. The only media in the Western world that is like, to a certain degree, like, look, even while we're talking, someone commented on my YouTube video, my last YouTube video, watch your beeper, Hasan. Like, for a lot of people, I think this is simply just another way to reinforce the hatred and resentment they feel towards, like, Muslims, Arabs as a whole, like people who are in support and recognize the humanity of Muslims. Like, they just use that as like a catch-all way. That's the reason why that Republican freak was like, oh, you got a pager on you, as she was walking to Congress. And she was, she met some anti-war code pink protesters who were like, who were criticizing her and protesting against her. And she was like, do you have a pager on you? For them, it's like a celebration. They don't give a fuck that it's a war crime. They don't give a fuck that it's an act of terror. And that's pretty much it. Like, for them, it's just something to celebrate. It's the same exact principle behind like posting fan cams of and fan edits of like the American military or the American Navy or aircraft carriers and whatnot, to be like, the Houthis gonna fuck around and find out today. This is why we don't have healthcare. Like they have nothing going on in their lives, so they basically use like American and Western imperialism as a substitute to be like, we're still the fucking dominant force, dude. That's right. It's the same principle behind fascism and white supremacy. Oftentimes, it's not like people that have a lot going on and no like real resentment in their lives that end up finding themselves in the throes of right-wing radicalization. There are people in this chat who, at a certain point, might have even been captivated by the alt-right, and that probably was their worst moments in their lives, when they just felt so shitty about everything that was going on, and this swan song like whispers sweet nothings into your ear, tells you you are actually supreme, you are actually destined for more, but you haven't been able to get it. Why? Because, minorities. That's why. They are they're taking away things from you that you deserve. And I think that is precisely what these people are doing, but from a more liberal perspective. A lot of people don't put a lot of thought into it, and they just like reiterate whatever the fuck they hear. They just whatever the fuck they hear, they just repeat. And they think like this is a haha funny meme. And because people are so primed not to see the humanity of like Lebanese people because of the crime that they are Muslim and Arab adjacent, right? Like that is one of the aspects that causes them to not really truly think critically about like what they're actually repeating and what they're actually seemingly defending. And that's it. But then there's also the other liberals who obviously also in a much similar capacity to like white supremacist fascists who have nothing going on and want to feel better about like why things suck. And that is what I see so routinely, like people just being like, oh yeah, well, we're blowing up babies, but like it's totally valid because guess what? Like that's why we don't fucking pay for healthcare, because we're paying for the baby murder machine. So maybe, hopefully, that'll be worth it. I'll act like it's worth it. I'll act like it makes me feel superior and supreme to everyone else. The Mark Robinson thing actually had an impact on my Zionist dad. AIPAC and the ADL have not put out a statement. So-called Jewish anti-discrimination groups literally put out no statement on someone running for a position of power, fantasizing about being a Nazi. He finally understood that maybe Israel and Judaism are not exactly hand in hand. Holy shit. That's fantastic. I hope you can also convert your mom a little bit as well. But yeah, that's like a perfect demonstration. You should show her the Trump the Trump speech from the anti-Semitism conference, where he basically said things like, all Jews only exclusively care about Israel, and I've done so much for Israel. Why the fuck are Jews not voting for me? If I lose, it's because of you Jews. Like, that was so nutty. It was probably one of my favorite Trump conferences that I've seen. One, because it was like unceremoniously very policy dense, which is not something you ever see from Donald Trump, because that is one area where he has done a lot of things, right? In terms of like having a pro-Israel policy. Like his foreign policy was hyper laser focused on whatever the fuck Netanyahu wanted. Her best friend actually loved this so much that she's no longer voting for Kamala, also Jewish. That's crazy, which is insane because the Biden-Harris has literally ridden the dick of Israel harder than Trump, to be honest. Yeah, but Trump also has like shown results for Israel. That's the difference. In that speech, he said that Jews in America can't step foot outside their homes without fearing attacks. And then at the very end also said that he sees Jewish people wearing yarmulkes at large pro-Palestine rallies safely, implying that's a bad thing. Just shows how he doesn't actually believe the first point. Yeah, I don't think he believes any of that fucking point at all. Even Greenblatt had to partially push back against Trump. Yeah, I mean, fuck Jonathan Greenblatt, but like, what's really funny is Trump actually repeated a lot of the statements that you've heard from Jonathan Greenblatt on MSNBC, a lot of the statements that you've heard time and time again. Like, so it's kind of funny to like criticize him, but Trump is so Trump that He will find a way to like repeat all the liberal positions and all the positions that Biden has repeated about like anti-Semitism on college campuses and things like that, only to then turn around and add so much insane shit that is like objectively anti-Semitic and objectively insane that like even people who don't necessarily care about anti-Semitism beyond using it as a fucking shield to defend Israel's actions have to come out and be like, yeah, this was a bridge too far for us. I appreciate that former President Trump called out anti-Semitism and recognizes historic surge. He's right on that. But the effect is undermined by then employing numerous anti-Semitic tropes and anti-Jewish stereotypes, including rampant accusations of dual loyalty. He didn't even do rampant accusations of dual loyalty. That is his operating procedure. That's the funniest part about this, is that here's a guy like Donald Trump who is very like, what you see is what you get, right? So in his mind, in his fucking mind, he's like, what? You Jews love Israel. What are you talking about? All Jews love Israel. That's why, and I've done so much for Israel. Like, that's it. He literally, that's his working assumption, because he doesn't think about this shit enough to like at least figure out how to best communicate it. One of the greatest examples of this was when he literally said on Chris Matthews' hardball in 2015 or 2016 when he was running for president that yes, he would punish women for getting abortions, not recognizing that obviously that's a big no-no to say, because he just looks at the situation and he's like, of course I'd punish women. That's the whole point of like doing, abortion restrictions. So that's why this is like another moment for Donald Trump to be like brutally honest by looking at the situation and being like, you Jews love Israel. What the fuck? I don't get it. Because that's all that has been communicated to him. That's all the media fucking makes it seem as though is the reality when it's not the reality, right? So for him, he's just like very transactional in that regard. And that's precisely why he wasn't even like making accusations of dual loyalty. He was running with the notion of dual loyalty, like as an established premise, the underlying premise at the heart of his talking points was, dual loyalty is obviously a given, which is wrong, but not if you hear that it's not according to the ADL. You know what I mean? ADL will say accusations of dual loyalty are obviously anti-Semitic because they are, while simultaneously presenting Israel as the singular thing that all Jews care about, which is literally just reiterating the commitment to what Donald Trump is saying, which is that all Jews care about Israel. That's all they care about. They don't care about nothing else, which is wrong, objectively wrong. And the first point is correct. It is actually fucking anti-Semitic. Problem is, you got Republicans, liberals, and fucking straight up Nazis saying the exact same shit, which is all Jews exclusively care, all American Jews, and Jews around the world, as a matter of fact, are all Zionists. They only care about Israel. They don't care about anything else. Like, they don't have any fucking material worries in their immediate day-to-day existences. Like, Jewish women don't care about fucking reproductive rights, or Jews don't care about the fucking price of rent going up. You know what I mean? Like, it's so stupid. It is objectively a stupid position. The unfortunate reality is, and this is something that I've talked about quite a fucking bit, is that this stupid position is seen as the norm because even the liberal side does not counter message against it. There is complete uniparty support on establishing this as an underlying presumption. And many Zionist Jews will also repeat that. They will also repeat it. They will make it seem as though that is the case, unless they want to make an argument about anti-Semitism, in which case they'll argue on the other side of it, other side of the same fucking argument that everyone has heard. Any kind of Zionist, regardless of what their background is, has presented. Savage Monk, can you explain why Israel has such a vice grip on U.S. and world leaders? Dude, Israel is an American state, okay? That's simply it, all right? That's it. The moment that you recognize a couple things is the moment that you will have a better understanding, a better assessment of what will come next. Israel is an American state. It's not a vassal state. It's just a state, and an important state, as a matter of fact. Like, Israel is more significant, more important, more consequential to the United States of America's interests than fucking Puerto Rico is. Okay? That's it. Israel is an extension of the United States of America. Our intelligence arm is constantly collaborating and even at times at odds with one another, but it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it is a demonstration of American State Department interest in a resource-rich region. Okay? So, you know, for that reason, America will go to any lengths necessary to protect that interest. Now, what resource? Oil, man. Oil, and a very important trade route. So, preemptively blaming American Jews for your potential election loss does zero to help American Jews. It increases their sense of alienation in a moment of vulnerability when right-wing extremists and left-wing anti-Zionists continually demonize and slander Jews. This is happening on college campuses, in public spaces, everywhere. There are threats on all sides, period. Let's be clear, this speech will likely spark more hostility and further inflame an already bad situation. Calling out the hate is important, but I can't overstate how the message is diluted and damaged when you employ hate to make your point. Yeah, shut up, bitch. It's like how using the mental shortcut of all these alt-right dudes are just Nazis will lead you to a more correct conclusion and better predictions than trying to find some nuanced subcategory like it's an important ally with controversial blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Anyway, couple things you always have to understand with Israel is that, like, in the Western world, the way that Israel's discussed by liberals and by conservatives and even fucking straight up Nazis is that it is to the benefit of the international global Jewish population, and that all Jews are a monolithic force that exclusively cares about Israel to varying degrees, right? To varying degrees, depending on which group you're talking about and the way that they analyze Israel. This is objectively false. Okay, this is not only objectively false, but it's also straight up anti-Semitic. It's anti-Semitic when a Nazi says it, and it's anti-Semitic when a pro-Israel person says it. So that's important to understand, right? It also is inconsistent with reality. It doesn't make sense. What is this? If I'm honest, I'd much rather have zero need to talk so much about Jews and Palestinians, but alas, here we are. Okay. Anyway. One thing to also consider, another thing that is also important, is that Israel, when it's conducting any military operation whatsoever, does not have any care or consideration for the Palestinians or the Arab population in the areas that they're dominating, areas that they're bombing. We knew that already, but I'll take it one step further. Israel as a government, as a entity, okay, and Zionism as an ideology, inherently fascist, also does not even care about the safety and security of Jewish people. They care about, they do care about it to a certain degree, but they don't care about it so much so that if there is an actual military objective, an actual objective of dominating like the Palestinian population, they will kill Jewish citizens of Israel as well. This is also known as the Hannibal Directive, which was implemented on October 7 and has been implemented since October 7 in Gaza, as they fucking openly blew up any target or any fucking area without a care or consideration for whether or not there were Jewish Israeli hostages under the fucking rubble. So once you recognize those two realities, you will understand, like, they're just doing this because they want the fucking land. They're doing this because they want to bring the Palestinian population to heel. So Donald Trump coming out and reiterating those positions, paired up with the idea that like all Jews only exclusively care about Israel, makes total sense. It makes logical sense. That is the beauty of Trump's statements. He doesn't think thoroughly. He doesn't actually want to oftentimes like apply a coat of paint to whatever the fuck he's saying. He just says it like it is. This is why a lot of people love him, right? This is why a lot of his fans love him. They go, yeah, he tells it like it is. And that's what he's doing there. When he's talking at the anti-Semitism conference, he's just telling it like it is. He is repeating things that he has seen, things that he has heard, and failing to understand why still 75% of Jews will consistently vote for the Democratic Party. He doesn't get it. He's like, I don't understand. I did everything for you Jews. You didn't. You did everything for Israel. Okay? So, yeah, that is the reality. Do you think that is where Trump started talking about Hannibal Lecter? Someone explained the accord to him? No. But yeah, even with respect to going back to what's going on in Lebanon, even with respect to what's happening in Lebanon, like, look at the fucking obvious imbalance here. Okay? They say it's tit for tat. This doesn't look like tit for tat. This is BBC's own fucking numbers, by the way. From the 7th of October to the 30th of June. Does this look like tit for tat to you? The blue is Hezbollah's counters, and the red is Israel striking Lebanon. Doesn't seem like it's tit for tat to me, but who knows?
Closer to Beirut, doesn't it? And I think that will make everybody feel uncomfortable. This is a country that has massive economic...
I will take it one step further. And I have said this before, and it bears repeating, like the top of the hour ad break that's coming 11 minutes in. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. Okay. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. But the thing that I will also repeat in terms of, like, because someone in the chat was like, so did Jews like help Trump win in 2016? No. Okay. Of course not. Because Jews, in terms of their number in the United States, is a marginal group inside of the population. They are a minority, okay? Of course not. And they overwhelmingly voted for the Democrats, as they always do, as a voting bloc, okay? But not only that, but also another thing that you need to understand, okay? Another thing you need to understand is that, like, there is a much more consequential group of voters that have an outsized level of influence in American politics. That group of consequential voters is the base of evangelical Zionists, evangelical Christians, who have a theological reasoning for why they believe Israel has to belong to the Jews, and the greater area, the greater region has to be given to the Jews. They are the number one funders and facilitators of the settlement project, and they have a phenomenal amount of money that they have dumped into Israel in general. They're the largest fucking donators to Israel. It's Kufi, Christians United for Israel. Those guys are, I would say, more invested in Israel. They're more invested in Israel being exclusive to the Jewish population than American Jews are, okay? And I'm sure you've met a Jewish Zionist that you fucking feel, anecdotally does not go along with that narrative, and that, like, you're going to be like, well, I don't know, my dad is Jewish and he doesn't feel that way. He's like he's a hardliner. He's a zealot. Yes, I'm not saying that, like, zealots don't exist in the American Jewish population, but you also have to look at the polls. American Jews are, one, still overwhelmingly voting Democrat, and also say that Israel is the 9th priority out of the top 10 priorities that they have in terms of the election. Okay? If you were to ask fucking Zionist evangelicals, though, they would probably place Israel higher. I haven't seen the polling, but I do know, just judging by the amount of fucking support, the amount of material support they offer Israel, like, it makes total fucking sense.
Massive political problems as well. It doesn't actually have a government. It has a caretaker government. It's very hard to run at the moment. This isn't what most people want. They don't want airstrikes from Israel. They don't want a major conflict either with Israel when people are just trying to put food on the table. So no, I don't think it's going to be welcomed by most people in Lebanon.
And John, look, while we have you as well, and while those unconfirmed reports are still there that it's Ibrahim Aqil that has been killed in this targeted strike, what do we know about this individual and why the Israelis would want to target him in this way?
He is a senior Hezbollah commander, so de facto he would be on the Israeli kill list. We know that both the Israelis want him, the Americans do as well. He is thought to have been involved in the team that bombed the U.S. Embassy back in 1983. There is a large bounty on his head, $7 million. So the Israelis will have been tracking him I am sure, for a very long time. If the Reuters news agency is right, if their security sources are right, it would seem that they were successful. And I should say it has been confirmed by Israeli media sources that they were seeking to assassinate this individual. They have a track record. They took out another senior commander, the number 2 military commander in Hezbollah called Fouad Shakur at the end of July. But as I said, there has been an unwritten rule in this conflict that both sides avoid major population centers. And I think people are going to ask, they're certainly going to say that this is an escalation, a major escalation. I think people are going to ask whether these unwritten rules are beginning to break down.